Hello BookTube! This is Becky from Becky Writes, and this is Becky Reads. It's time for my Genrethon wrap-up video. Genrethon is a readathon that lasted from last Sunday, April 10th, to this Sunday, April 17th, in which we were invited to read at least 3 books from 3 different genres. Those genres could be any combination, like reading a collection of short stories, reading a play, and reading a book of poetry. However you wanted to mix it up, the only requirement was that you read 3 different genres. Genrethon was started by Brittany from Under the Radar Books, Josh from Scribbles Reads, Kristen from Vienna Waits Books, and Lauren from Lauren in the Books, and I will link all of their channels down below so you can find these lovely ladies. Now for Genrethon, I was only able to get through 3 books, which for me feels like quite the accomplishment. My work life has been crazy. I'm working on a research project and on some grant writing, so coming home and reading is a lot of work for me. But I did manage to get through 3 books. So the first book that I finished for Genrethon is The Good Luck Girls of Shipwreck Lane by Kelly Harms. This tells the story of 2 different Janine Browns from Cedar Falls, Iowa, who both believe they have won a dream home in Maine. Both believing that they are the rightful winners, meet each other when they both try to move in, and a lot of hilarity and hijinks ensue. There are 2 very distinct Janine Browns. Janine Jamie Brown is a little bit older. She's in her early 30s and is recovering from a tragedy in her past. Her great aunt Midge plays a major part in her life, and she is a very shy young woman, has a hard time talking to strangers and getting to meet people, and she deals with her stress through cooking a lot of cooking. Then there's Neen Brown, who's much younger, in her early 20s. She also has a tragic past. She has had a string of really abusive boyfriends. She never finished high school and doesn't really have any family. These 2 young women meet in Maine, both having claims to the house, and eventually they all decide to live in the house together, at least for a little while, and that's really where the story takes off. There are some things I really did enjoy about this book. I think that after the first 100 pages or so, the 2 characters of Janie and Neen both really come together, and they feel like real characters. You can feel their conflict, but also you can feel how they're becoming friends and negotiating living together. I think Aunt Midge is hilarious, and she's a fun, dirty old woman. And honestly, if you like food writing, if you enjoy food in your books, this book is right up your alley. This has some of the most descriptive food writing I've read in a long time. It made me hungry. I'm a vegetarian, so I don't even eat half of what she prepares in this, but Janie cooks when she's stressed, and this book is full of really delicious sounding meals and recipes, and I think that if that's something you enjoy, or if you yourself are a cook, this would be an interesting read from that aspect. But there are some things I did not enjoy about this book. One of them is that there are some real inconsistencies in the characterizations of the 2 women. The most glaring of which is that Neen, who never finished high school, who dreams of getting her GED, who works in a fast food restaurant in Iowa, which is a landlocked state, knows that what the material of a wetsuit is made out of, and she like mentally is saying this to you. That is such an inconsistency, and this is full of these weird inconsistencies. I just don't believe that these characters would have this knowledge, and so it throws you out of a story. At least it did for me. Ultimately, really what I felt about this book is that it reads like a Hallmark Channel movie. It doesn't have a lot of depth. There are some tender moments. It's cute, but the side characters and the love interests are pretty flat. All in all, I didn't think this was a bad book, but I didn't think it was great, so I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. The second book I finished for Genrethon was Barrow Rites by Hannah Kent. This is an adult historical fiction, also a literary fiction novel that follows the last few weeks remaining to Agnes Magnusdóttir, a woman who was convicted of murder in Iceland in the early 1800s. Now, if the tabs didn't clue you in, I really enjoyed this book. This book is about Agnes and how Agnes is sent to live with a family on a rural farm while she's waiting for her execution, essentially, and the relationships that she forms with the family and also with the priest who's trying to sort of prepare her for death. This book has several shifting point of views. It is told in some snippets from actual historical documents, some first-person thoughts that Agnes thinks. You're inside Agnes's brain for part of this, and some limited third person that flits between other characters that are around Agnes. I thought Burial Rites was one of the most beautiful books I've read all year. The language of the sentence level is beautiful. It really just glows off the page. I'm going to be doing a full book review of Burial Rites, so I won't get into too much of why I love it so much now. This was a beautiful story about human relationships and the fact that people who commit crimes are still people. They aren't these inhuman monsters. They are very human and often have very human motivations behind their crimes. It doesn't justify the crimes, but it helps remind us that humans can do horrible things for all kinds of reasons. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. The final book that I finished for Genrethon was Vengeance Road by Erin Bowman. This is a YA Western that follows Kate Thompson after her father is brutally murdered by a gunslinging gang called the Rose Riders. She is out for vengeance, and she goes on their trail to hunt down the men that killed her father and take her revenge. Along the way, she meets up with the Colton brothers, and they follow her through the Arizona territory hunting down this gang of Rose Riders. In the mix of this, she discovers that her father might have had directions to a lucrative gold mine that these men were after. Now, I've never read a Western before at all. I've seen plenty of Western films, but I've never read a Western novel. My grandfather used to read Louis L'Amour paperbacks like it was going out of style, so I was just never really interested. And so I came into this with a really open mind. It's a beautiful cover. I've heard good things about it, so I was excited to pick this up, and I wanted to love this, and I just didn't. I think this fell flat for me. What I realized after I read this is that this feels more like a middle grade novel and not like a YA novel. The characters feel really simple, and the plot goes in some really bizarre directions that almost seem laughable. It's not that it's predictable. I mean, some of it is very predictable. It's just that it feels almost like wink wink nod nod. So I have to say I was a little bit disappointed in Vengeance Road. I'm still debating between a 2.5 and a 3-star review. I think it might have just been me. There is a very strong Western accent, like they say "yer" and "reckon" and things like that throughout this book, and some of that was fine, but some of it felt really cheesy. I did really like the character of Kate. She's got a lot of grit and determination. She's loyal, but she's stubborn. I did like the characters of the Colton brothers, but I don't know, this just did not ring all my bells, and I had such high hopes for this, so I'm disappointed that this didn't really come through for me. Yeah, this is somewhere between a 2.5 and a 3-star review. I don't know if it's just that it wasn't for me, and it's not that bad of a book, or that I think it's really more of a middle grade read rather than a YA, and if I'd thought it was a middle grade, I might have been a little bit more receptive to it. I don't know, this just did not ring true for me, so yeah. That is my Genrethon wrap-up. I had one excellent 5-star read, which is probably the best book I've read all year, and I also had 2 kind of meh reads, books that I thought I was really gonna enjoy and kind of fell flat for me and really didn't fulfill what I was hoping for. How was your Genrethon? Did you read some really great books? Did you read some really meh books? Let me know down in the comments. I'd love to know how that went for you and if there are any new genres you are gonna be checking out. I thought I'd be reading more Westerns. Now I'm not really so sure. If you do read Westerns and you have some recommendations of maybe some adult Westerns you think I might enjoy, I would love for you to leave those in the comments, because I don't want to give up on the genre entirely based on Vengeance Road, but right now I don't really have a lot of incentive to pick up any more Westerns. Thank you all for watching. I hope you're doing well, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye!